Welcome, weary traveler, to the serene sanctuary of Buddha stories. As the hush of evening descends and the distant world fades into a gentle hum, I invite you to settle into the embrace of your bed. Feel its soft comfort cocooning you, supporting every curve and contour of your body. Allow your muscles to soften, releasing any lingering tension from the day. With each slow, deliberate exhale, feel your body sinking deeper, becoming heavier, more grounded. Let your breath find its own natural rhythm now, a gentle, consistent wave of inhalation and exhalation guiding you towards a state of profound peace. Tonight we embark on a journey through ancient wisdom tales whispered across generations from the tranquil monasteries of Zen Buddhism. These are not merely stories, but vessels carrying insights that will both relax your mind and nourish your spirit, particularly concerning the intricate and often mysterious connections we forge in our lives. As you settle deeper into this comfortable stillness, I will share timeless Zen parables that reveal the hidden purpose behind the bonds that shape us. Each tale offers a unique perspective on how we grow, heal, and awaken through our relationships with others. Our first story takes us to a secluded mountain monastery, a place where the veil between the earthly and the ethereal seems almost transparent. Here, a young seeker discovers a profound truth that people never enter our lives by chance. This understanding, a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, suggests an underlying order, a grand tapestry woven by unseen hands, where every thread, every connection has its precise place and purpose. The Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, once taught, "Everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make your peace with that, and all will be well." This seemingly simple truth carries a profound weight, particularly when applied to the ephemeral nature of our connections. Whether they are fleeting encounters, like two boats passing in the mist, or deep, lifelong bonds that withstand the fiercest storms, all relationships have their season. They arise from causes, and conditions unfold through a unique journey and eventually reach their conclusion. Accepting this impermanence is not a path to detachment or indifference, but a gateway to appreciating the present moment of connection with profound gratitude. Understanding that its very transient nature imbues it with a precious, often overlooked significance. Tonight's story delves into this timeless truth, exploring why certain individuals appear in our lives at precisely the moment they are meant to, carrying with them the exact lessons, challenges, or gifts our spirit is ready to receive. Our tale unfolds in ancient Japan within the quietude of a peaceful mountainside monastery. Imagine it now, cherry blossoms delicate and ethereal dancing on gentle spring breezes, their soft pink petals swirling like silent snow. In this sacred space, where the solemn toll of temple bells punctuates moments of deep meditation and the boundary between earth and sky seems to disappear in the morning mist, we find wisdom about the invisible threads that connect us all. In this remote haven lived an elderly monk named Hotaka. Though his physical form was well into its 80s, etched with the passage of countless seasons, his eyes still sparkled with the clarity of mountain lakes, reflecting a profound wisdom gathered through decades of unwavering meditation and contemplation. Hotaka was not a monk who sought complete isolation, a life entirely removed from human interaction. On the contrary, he held a deep conviction, a truth he often shared with his students, that our connections with others were not merely distractions from the spiritual path, but rather essential pathways to understanding the deeper nature of existence itself. In the web of life, he would often tell his eager students, his voice as resonant and comforting as a smoothly worn stone. Each thread touches countless others. There are no isolated strands. To believe ourselves separate is an illusion. We are all intricately interwoven, our lives influencing and shaping one another in ways we often cannot perceive. This concept of interconnection was central to his teaching, a living embodiment of the Buddha's profound insight that nothing ever exists entirely alone. Everything is in relation to everything else. It was a reminder that every encounter, every shared breath, contributes to the vast living tapestry of existence, a grand design unfolding with perfect precision. One particularly beautiful spring morning, as the delicate pink cherry blossoms swirled in gentle eddies around his chosen meditation spot beneath the ancient gnarled branches of a venerable cherry tree, Hotaka's clear gaze fell upon a young man approaching the monastery gates. The visitor moved with a distinct determination in his steps, a sense of purposeful forward motion. Yet beneath that resolved stride, Hotaka discerned a subtle uncertainty in the young man's eyes. It was a particular look he had recognized countless times over the decades, the expression of someone carrying a question too heavy for their heart to bear alone, a profound inquiry that weighed on their spirit and sought an answer beyond their own capacity. The young man, whose name was Hiroshi, had undertaken a truly arduous journey. He had traveled for 17 days, a continuous pilgrimage from a coastal village nestled far to the south, a place where the rhythmic roar of the ocean was a constant companion. Though he had never met Hotaka before, something inexplicable, an invisible current, had drawn him specifically to this particular monastery, to this particular teacher. Later, when asked to describe what had compelled him, Hiroshi would struggle for words, eventually settling on a feeling like being called by a voice I couldn't quite hear but somehow understood. It was as though an unseen guiding force had carried him there, much like the very essence of the Buddha's teaching. Everything arises from causes and conditions. Nothing exists entirely alone. His arrival was not a coincidence, but the manifestation of a deeper preordained convergence. After being welcomed into the monastery and offered a refreshing cup of fragrant tea to soothe the weariness from his long journey, Hiroshi finally gathered the courage to voice the question that had driven him across mountains and valleys, across the vast expanse of his known world, to find this secluded sanctuary. Master Hotaka, he began, his voice a respectful murmur as he bowed deeply before the elder monk. I've been troubled by something I cannot explain, a persistent observation that haunts my thoughts. He paused, searching for the precise words to capture the elusive feeling. Throughout my life, I've noticed that sometimes, when I meet people, I feel an immediate, undeniable connection, a sense of profound recognition, as if I've known them before, in some forgotten time, in a life beyond this one. With others, however, he continued, his brow furrowing with concern. I feel an immediate unease, a shadow crossing my spirit without any clear, logical reason. It's as though my very essence recoils. Do people come into our lives merely by chance, Master, Or is there some invisible pattern, a cosmic design that I cannot yet perceive? Hotaka listened intently to the young man's earnest inquiry, his gaze unwavering. He noted how the dappled sunlight, filtering through the delicate cherry blossoms above, created shifting patterns of light and shadow across Hiroshi's features, mirroring the interplay of clarity and confusion within his questioning spirit. For several long moments, the elderly monk remained silent, allowing Hiroshi's profound question to resonate in the peaceful space between them, hanging in the air like the lingering resonant sound of a temple bell, its vibrations slowly fading into the quiet afternoon. People never enter our lives by accident, young Hiroshi. Hotaka finally replied, his voice carrying the texture of weathered stone, gentle yet unyielding in its certainty. This truth lies deeper than the deepest ocean and reaches higher than the tallest mountain. Each encounter, whether fleeting or profound, is a thread in an invisible tapestry that began to be woven long before you drew your first breath, long before the present moment, stretching back through countless cycles of existence. He paused, allowing his words to sink in to permeate the quiet air of the garden. The Buddha taught us that in this vast and interconnected world, we are all profoundly linked. We have in countless past lives been each other's mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, friends, and even adversaries. This is not merely poetic language, a beautiful metaphor to soothe the troubled mind. No, young one, this is the actual nature of our existence, a fundamental truth of the universe, rooted in the continuous cycle of karma and rebirth. Every encounter is a continuation of a story that began eons ago, a meeting that serves a purpose for both souls involved, guiding them towards deeper understanding and liberation. Rising slowly, his joints, remembering the passage of 84 winters, Hotaka gestured toward the vast clear sky above the monastery garden. His movements, though deliberate, held a quiet grace, a testament to decades of mindful living. Observe the birds, young Hiroshi. He invited, his voice a soft murmur that carried over the gentle rustle of leaves. They appear to fly freely, charting their own course through the endless blue expanse. Their flight seems unburdened, a pure expression of will, as if no force guides them but their own desire. Hiroshi followed the monk's gaze, watching a flock of swallows dip and soar in elegant unison, their dark silhouettes momentarily eclipsing the brilliant spring sun. They seemed the very embodiment of unconstrained movement, of absolute liberty, unbound by any visible tether. Yet Hotaka continued, a subtle, knowing smile playing on his lips. Each is supported by invisible currents of air that guide and shape their journey. Without these currents, their effortless dance would be impossible. They would simply fall from the sky. We too are carried by currents, invisible to the eye, currents, far more profound than mere breezes. These are the flowing rivers of karma, intention, and connection that began long before this life and continue far beyond it. Nothing in this world happens without cause. No encounter is without purpose. As the Buddha said, nothing ever exists entirely alone. Everything is in relation to everything else. Our lives are not a series of random events, but a continuous unfolding, a journey directed by forces we are only just beginning to perceive. Hiroshi considered this, his gaze still fixed on the graceful, seemingly spontaneous movement of the birds against the spring sky. The concept of karma, of interconnectedness, wasn't entirely new to him. Village elders had spoken of it in hushed tones of actions bearing consequences across lifetimes of the intricate web that bound all living things. But he had never before considered how these invisible ancient laws might be so actively and precisely shaping the intimate relationships in his own life, dictating who he met and when. It was a profound shift in perspective, moving from a chaotic, chance driven world to one imbued with a subtle, guiding order. A thoughtful frown creased his brow. But, Masters, he asked, his voice tinged with a persistent confusion. If nothing is by chance, if every person who enters our life has a purpose, then why do some people bring such difficulty into our lives? Why do some connections feel like profound blessings, like the gentle warmth of the spring sun on our skin, while others feel like crushing burdens, like the oppressive weight of a winter storm pressing down upon us? Hotaka smiled gently, a deep understanding softening his features, and motioned for Hiroshi to follow him deeper into the monastery garden. The garden itself was a carefully tended masterpiece of simplicity and profound intention. Stones were arranged with a subtle purpose that spoke of geological time anchoring the space. Plants were placed not merely for beauty, but with an intention to create harmonious relationships between all elements, each leaf and flower contributing to the overall tranquility. Morning dew still clung to every leaf and petal, transforming ordinary plants into jeweled wonders in the early light, each droplet catching and refracting the sun's nascent rays, mirroring the inner clarity Hotaka sought to awaken. Imagine your life as a garden, young Hiroshi. Hotaka said, his arm sweeping in a gentle arc to encompass the tranquil space around them. Every person who crosses your path, every soul you encounter, is like a seed planted by the hand of destiny. These seeds are not scattered haphazardly by the wind. They are placed with a divine intention, a purpose meant to contribute to the unique ecosystem of your life. Some grow like magnificent ancient trees that provide deep shade and unwavering shelter through many seasons of your life. He pointed to a majestic maple, its broad leaves vibrant green, its trunk thick and gnarled, clearly having witnessed the passing of many generations of monks and visitors. It stood as a silent testament to enduring strength and stability, a grounding presence that offered constant solace. Others, he continued, gesturing to a patch of wild ephemeral wildflowers near the rough moss-covered garden wall, bloom brilliantly but briefly present for just a single season before they return to the earth, their vibrant colors fading. Yet their beauty changes you, that leaves an indelible mark upon your soul, perhaps awakening a new sense of wonder or fleeting joy. In the garden, he added, his voice soft but resonant, remembers their presence in the very soil itself, enriched by their passing. Even though their time was short, their contribution was profound, adding to the richness and diversity of your experience. Hiroshi nodded slowly, beginning to understand the profound metaphor. He thought of the sturdy village elder who had guided him through his childhood after his father's untimely passing. A reliable, unwavering presence, much like the majestic maple tree providing a constant source of strength and wisdom. And then he remembered a traveling musician, a wandering soul who had stayed in his small fishing village for just 3 days, a fleeting, brilliant presence like the wildflowers. Yet the musician's haunting melodies and captivating stories had awakened in young Hiroshi a profound longing for something beyond the familiar boundaries of his small community, sparking a thirst for knowledge and adventure that had never fully subsided. The brief encounter had reshaped his entire perspective, even though the musician himself had vanished as quickly as he appeared, a vibrant memory that continued to inspire. They walked in silence for a moment, following a winding stone path that led to a small crystalline stream running playfully through the garden. The air was cool and fresh near the water. Hiroshi knelt beside the clear, cool water, watching his reflection ripple and transform with the gentle current. The face that looked back at him seemed subtly different somehow, younger, yet simultaneously older, more vulnerable, yet undeniably stronger. The journey, the encounter, and the metaphors were already working their subtle magic upon his inner landscape, softening rigid perspectives and opening new avenues of thought. But what about those who harm us, Master? He asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, the memory of painful encounters and broken trust surfacing in his mind. What purpose do they serve in this garden of life? Surely they cannot be seen as gifts. Their presence feels only like a blight. Hotaka's eyes reflected a deep compassion, a profound understanding born from his own encounters with suffering throughout his long life. Those who hurt us, young Hiroshi, he said, his voice imbued with a quiet certainty, are often our most profound teachers. They are like the sharp stones that line this very path beneath our feet. He bent down with surprising agility for his age, his movements smooth and practiced, and picked up a perfectly smooth dark stone from the edge of the stream, polished by countless years of flowing water. It felt cool and comforting in his palm. When you first step on a sharp, jagged stone, he explained, holding it up for Hiroshi to see, you feel only sudden, searing pain. Your instinct is to recoil, to avoid, to resent its very presence, to wish it had never crossed your path. He then turned the smooth stone over in his palm, revealing its softened edges, a testament to relentless natural forces. But over time, the passing of countless feet, the persistent erosion of water, and the patient workings of nature smooth its edges. The stone remains a stone, a solid presence, but its relationship with those who walk the path transforms. It ceases to inflict pain. It becomes a foundation, a steady part of the ground, or even a stepping stone to lift you higher. The Buddha taught. Hotaka continued, his gaze returning to Hiroshi's earnest face. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. This timeless teaching holds immense power when considering those who inflict pain, the difficult people in our lives. He elaborated, his voice softening. The fisherman who ridiculed your dreams, the friend who betrayed your confidence, the stranger whose careless words cut like a knife. They each serve to shape your spirit in ways that gentle encounters cannot. They push against your boundaries, test your resolve, and force you to confront your own vulnerabilities and strengths. They reveal areas where you may be weak or where your self-worth is tied to external validation. They teach you where your path is not by illuminating the detours and dead ends, helping you discover where it truly lies by showing you what you no longer wish to be or experience. Hiroshi considered this a flood of memories washing over him, moments of betrayal, of harsh words, of unfair treatment. He had always viewed these experiences as purely negative, as injustices to be resented. But now, with Hotaka's gentle guidance, he began to trace the subtle, unexpected ways in which each difficult encounter had ultimately strengthened his resolve, refined his character, or redirected his path in unforeseen and ultimately beneficial ways. The truth in the old monk's words resonated deeply, though he knew it was not an easy truth to fully embrace. It demanded a reevaluation of pain, a shift from victimhood to agency, and a recognition that even suffering could be a potent catalyst for profound personal growth. I have often found, Hoteka continued softly, his voice a comforting balm, that the people who challenge us most are often reflecting parts of ourselves we have not yet acknowledged or healed. Their actions may trigger our own unexamined fears, our unresolved anger, our unaddressed insecurities. They hold up a mirror, however uncomfortable, to our own internal landscape. The Buddha taught that you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. This profound wisdom reminds us that how we respond to difficult encounters shapes us far more deeply and fundamentally than the encounters themselves. Our inner landscape, our peace of mind, is ultimately determined not by what happens to us, but by our chosen response to it, by our capacity to cultivate inner freedom amidst external discord. The old monk, with a gentle and deliberate grace that spoke of profound inner peace, led Hiroshi to a small weathered wooden bench tucked beneath the delicate canopy of a flowering plum tree. Its blossoms, a cascade of soft white petals, perfumed the air with a subtle sweetness. As they sat together, the dappled light filtering through the intricate network of branches created shifting patterns of light and shadow that danced across the garden, mirroring the interplay of understanding and wonder unfolding in Hiroshi's mind. A few plum petals drifted down around them, weightless and serene, like gentle ephemeral snow landing softly on their robes. There are fundamentally three types of people who enter the garden of your life, young Hiroshi. Hotaka began, his voice soft but clear, carrying the wisdom of countless years. Understanding their nature, their unique purpose, may help you welcome each encounter with appropriate gratitude, even those that at first seem challenging or inexplicable. Hotaka paused beside a stone lantern, its subtle glow barely visible in the bright morning light, yet still providing a quiet, unwavering guidance along the meandering path. It stood as a silent symbol of illumination, of insight that persists, even when not immediately apparent, a quiet beacon on the journey. First, he explained, his gaze resting thoughtfully on the enduring stone, are those who support the very structure of your journey. These are the people who provide foundation, boundaries, and stability. Like the steadfast banks of a flowing river, they may at times constrain you, defining the limits of your current path, ensuring your life has form and direction. Yet in doing so, they give powerful direction to your flow, preventing your energies from dissipating aimlessly across a vast, undirected plain. They are the anchors, the unwavering presences that allow you to navigate the currents of life with a sense of security and purpose. Think of the sturdy and reliable family mentors or steadfast friends who have been a constant source of strength, providing the essential framework for your growth. Then, Hotaka continued, his gaze shifting to the vibrant, shifting light in the plum tree. There are those who bring renewal. These are the individuals who challenge your established perceptions, who introduce new ideas, novel ways of thinking, or who awaken dormant, perhaps even unrecognized aspects of your spirit. Like a sudden spring rain on parched earth, they may at times disrupt your comfortable patterns, forcing you out of complacency or familiar routines, washing away old ways of thinking. But their very disruption fertilizes the soil of your soul, awakening new growth and bringing forth unforeseen blooms of creativity and understanding. They are the catalysts, the gentle forces that encourage transformation, often appearing when you are ready for a shift, even if you don't yet know it. He spoke of fleeting teachers, inspiring artists, or new acquaintances who open unexpected doors. Finally, the old monk said his eyes, now fixed on the distant horizon where the mist still clung to the mountain peaks, blurring the line between earth and sky. There are the momentary guides. These are the people who appear briefly often at crucial junctures in your journey to illuminate a single vital step. Like this very lantern, he said, lightly tapping the smooth stone, they need not remain forever to fulfill their profound purpose. A single moment of clear light in profound darkness may be enough to show you the path forward, to reveal a hidden turn or a necessary direction. Their presence is short lived, perhaps just a word exchanged or a simple gesture, yet their impact can be immeasurable, steering the course of your life with a singular perfect illumination. They are the strangers who offer exactly the right advice at the crossroads or the brief encounter that sparks a life changing idea. Hiroshi listened intently, visualizing the people in his own life who had filled each of these distinct, meaningful roles. He thought of his mother, steadfast as the mountain itself, whose unwavering love and practical wisdom had been the constant banks guiding his early years, providing a secure foundation. He remembered the wandering scholar who had arrived in his village one dusty autumn, a man who in just a few weeks had taught him to read, and in doing so had opened up worlds beyond the familiar boundaries of his small fishing community, sparking a thirst for knowledge that had never fully subsided. And then there was the old woman at the crossroads, a figure shrouded in mystery, who had given him directions to this very monastery with such unwavering conviction that he had not doubted his path, even when the way grew difficult, winding and obscured by mountain mists. Each in their own way had played a critical, indispensable role in shaping his journey, leading him to this very moment of profound insight. I begin to understand, Master Hiroshi, said, a newfound clarity shining in his eyes, a quiet wonder in his voice. But how can I know which connections to nurture, to hold close, and which to release, to allow to drift away like autumn leaves on the wind? How do I discern the unique purpose of each person who enters the garden of my life, distinguishing between what serves my growth and what might hinder it? His question was filled with a deep sincerity, reflecting a desire not just for abstract knowledge, but for practical guidance in navigating the complex, often perplexing, landscape of human relationships. Hotaka considered this question carefully, his wise eyes gazing far into the distance as if consulting the very fabric of the universe. He knew that this was the practical heart of Hiroshi's inquiry, the point where profound philosophy met the messy realities of daily existence. It was a question that many seekers wrestled with, and its answer lay not in rigid rules, but in subtle discernment. The Buddha offered profound guidance here, young Hiroshi. Hotaka responded, his voice, gentle yet firm, imbued with the quiet certainty of deep realization. When he said, "In the end, only three things truly matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you." This timeless wisdom points directly to the heart of your question, offering not a strict set of rigid rules to follow, but a guiding principle for discerning the true nature and purpose of your connections. Notice how each connection affects the garden of your spirit. Hotaka continued his gaze, inviting Hiroshi to look inward, to become keenly aware of his own inner landscape. Does this person's presence help beneficial qualities take root and grow within you? Do they encourage your compassion, your wisdom, your courage? Do they nourish your deepest aspirations, helping them blossom into reality, bringing vibrancy and health to your inner world? Or conversely, do they trample what is tender and beautiful within you, draining your energy, diminishing your spirit, or encouraging patterns of fear, anger, or despair? Do they leave you feeling depleted rather than replenished? Your own inner wisdom will speak, Hiroshi. The monk assured him, placing a gentle hand on the young man's arm. But only if you learn to listen. It is a quiet voice, a subtle intuition easily drowned out by the clamor of external expectations, the demands of others, or the noisy currents of your own desires and anxieties. Cultivate stillness, a receptive quietude within yourself, and you will begin to hear its subtle guidance, distinguishing with increasing clarity between what truly serves your growth and what hinders it. They sat in companionable silence for a long time, watching the play of light and shadow across the garden as soft clouds drifted lazily overhead. The gentle rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of the stream were the only sounds, a natural symphony of peace. Hiroshi felt something profound shifting within him, a new perspective forming, like mist clearing from a valley, to reveal the vast, intricate landscape below, suddenly imbued with a sense of order and purpose he had never before perceived. The weight he had carried, the burden of his unanswered questions, seemed to lighten, replaced by a quiet sense of understanding and deep appreciation for the wisdom that had been so patiently shared. His spirit felt expansive, as though new pathways were opening within him. "There is one more thing, Hiroshi," Hotaka said, finally breaking the profound silence, his voice a soft invitation to an even deeper truth. "Just as others enter your garden with purpose, so too do you enter theirs. This is the reciprocal nature of the tapestry, the inherent interconnectedness of all threads, a dance of giving and receiving that transcends individual lives. In some lives, you are the sturdy tree providing shade and shelter, a steady, unwavering presence amidst the storms, offering comfort and support. In others, you are the brief but brilliant bloom, a vibrant burst of color and fragrance that awakens beauty, perhaps inspiring a fleeting joy or a profound yearning that shifts the course of another's life. Your impact, though momentary, leaves an indelible mark, and in still others, you may be the challenging stone, causing momentary discomfort, forcing a reevaluation of assumptions, pushing against limits, but ultimately smoothing with time to become a necessary step on someone else's path, a foundation for their growth, and understanding, a catalyst for their own journey of self-discovery. Hotaka's eyes twinkled with a gentle light, a reflection of the profound joy he found in this shared understanding. The Buddha taught, Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Your presence in the lives of others, your light, your compassion can illuminate their way forward without diminishing your own. Remember this young Hiroshi and move mindfully through the many gardens you are destined to enter, knowing that you too are a deliberate, purposeful thread in the grand design, weaving beauty and meaning wherever you go. As the day progressed, the soft golden light of late morning ripened into the full, vibrant glow of afternoon. Hotaka, with the boundless patience of a seasoned teacher, continued to share more of the Buddha's profound wisdom about human connection. Their conversation flowed as effortlessly as the stream through the monastery garden, touching upon various facets of relationships that had once seemed enigmatic and confusing to Hiroshi. The old monk spoke at length about how attachments could paradoxically become a source of profound suffering, especially when we clung too tightly to relationships that had already served their purpose and were naturally moving towards their conclusion. Imagine a child clutching a handful of sand. Hotaka explained, his voice a soft murmur, rich with the wisdom of experience. The tighter they clench their fist, the more sand slips through their fingers, leaving them with less than they started. So too with relationships. When we cling desperately to what is meant to change, to release, or to transition, we resist the natural flow of impermanence, and in doing so, we create suffering for ourselves. We cause our own pain by refusing to adapt to life's inevitable currents. He elaborated on the delicate balance between love that liberates and desire that binds. True love metta. Hotaka clarified, using the ancient Pali term for loving kindness, is like the sun. It shines freely, warming all it touches without demanding anything in return. It wishes for the well-being and happiness of the other, even if that means their path diverges from ours, even if their choices do not align with our expectations. Desire, on the other hand, is often rooted in expectation, in the need for the other to fulfill a particular role, to remain eternally as they are, or to satisfy our own unexamined needs. It's like a vine that wraps itself so tightly around a tree that it stifles the tree's growth, eventually harming both the tree and the vine itself. The practice he emphasized was to love generously, to appreciate the connection in the present moment with profound gratitude, but to hold it with an open hand, ready to allow it to transform or release when its season is over, recognizing its inherent impermanence. Hotaka taught Hiroshi specific practices to cultivate gratitude for each encounter, whether the experience had been pleasant and harmonious or challenging and difficult. Every person, he insisted, his voice, unwavering, offers us a unique opportunity for growth, a profound lesson waiting to be learned. The joyful connections teach us about kindness, support, and the beauty of shared humanity. They fill our cup, nourishing our spirits. The challenging ones, though painful and uncomfortable, sharpen our discernment, strengthen our resolve, and reveal hidden reservoirs of resilience within us. They are the grit that polishes the pearl of our spirit, revealing its inherent luminosity. He guided Hiroshi in a simple contemplation. At the end of each day, bring to mind 3 people you encountered, whether for a fleeting moment or for hours. One who brought you joy, one who challenged you, and one who was simply a neutral presence, perhaps a stranger in the market. For the one who brought joy, offer a silent prayer of gratitude, for the light they shared, for the happiness they brought. For the one who challenged you, offer gratitude for the lesson they inadvertently offered, for the growth they spurred, even through difficulty. And for the neutral presence, simply acknowledge their existence, their shared humanity, and the silent way in which all lives are interconnected, flowing side by side. This practice, performed consistently and with an open heart, cultivates a mind and heart that see purpose and blessing in every interaction, transforming the mundane into the sacred. As evening approached, casting long, peaceful shadows across the monastery grounds, Hiroshi felt a quiet apprehension settle over him. He had arrived intending to stay only long enough to ask his single profound question, expecting a brief, perhaps abstract answer. Now, however, after hours steeped in Hotaka's gentle wisdom and the monastery's profound tranquility, he found himself reluctant to leave the peaceful presence of the old monk and the serene embrace of the temple. The world outside the bustling marketplace and the incessant demands of his village life seemed distant, almost jarring in contrast to the deep quiet he had found here. Master Hotaka. Hiroshi said, his voice tinged with a new humility, as they stood together at the monastery gate, preparing for his departure. The air was growing cooler, carrying the crisp scent of pine and damp earth, a natural perfume of the approaching night. I have one final, perhaps foolish question. How can I possibly remember these profound teachings when I return to the busy world below, where it's so easy to believe that encounters are merely random, dictated by chance, and relationships are simply what we make of them rather than threads in a grand design? How do I carry this deep awareness into the daily clamor of life, into the mundane and the challenging moments alike? Hotaka smiled a knowing, gentle smile that crinkled the corners of his wise eyes. He understood the challenge intimately. Knowledge gained in a quiet sanctuary, in moments of deep reflection, could easily be lost amidst the relentless demands and distractions of everyday existence. The wisdom had to be lived, not just understood. Reaching into the deep folds of his worn robe, he removed a small, simple pouch made of soft, unadorned cloth, its texture smooth from years of handling. From it, he carefully took 3 small, seemingly ordinary items. First, he withdrew a perfectly smooth, dark stone from the stream that flowed through the monastery garden. Its surface was cool and polished, worn smooth by the relentless, patient flow of water over centuries, a testament to enduring natural forces. He then produced a delicate dried cherry blossom, carefully preserved between layers of thin, translucent paper, its fragile beauty still evident despite its age, a whisper of spring held captive in time. Finally, he revealed a tiny, intricately carved wooden lantern, no larger than Hiroshi's thumb, its minute details testament to a craftsman's devotion and meticulous care, a miniature beacon. Keep these with you, young Hiroshi. The monk said, his voice a soft invitation, as he gently placed the 3 small treasures into Hiroshi's palm, his fingers gently closing the young man's hand around them, ensuring they were secure. When you doubt the purpose in your connections, when you question why someone has entered your life, remember the 3 types of encounter we spoke of: the sturdy trees, the brief blossoms, and the challenging stones, and look for the unique teaching each brings. Let the smooth stone remind you of the challenging people. Hotaka continued, his gaze steady and profound. The ones who, like sharp rocks, cause pain at first disrupting your equilibrium. But remember that with time and with your conscious effort to learn rather than react, their edges can be smoothed and they can become a foundation for your path, revealing your strength and redirecting your journey towards greater resilience and clarity. Let the dried cherry blossom remind you of the brief but brilliant encounters. He said, gesturing towards the delicate flower, its fragility a poignant reminder of impermanence. The ones who, like the fleeting beauty of the blossoms, are present for just a season, their vibrant presence a gift. Yet their very presence, however short, can transform your perception, awaken a new longing, or spark a change that ripples through your life long after they have returned to the earth. Cherish their transient beauty and the indelible mark they leave upon your soul. And let this tiny lantern, Hotaka, concluded holding up the miniature carving, its small form embodying a great truth, remind you of the momentary guides, and most importantly, of the illumination you yourself can offer. Remember the Buddha's words: if you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. The connections we nurture, the light we share through our understanding and compassion, illuminate our way forward, even when the path seems dark, even when the future is uncertain. Your presence in the lives of others is a gift, and through giving genuinely and mindfully, your own light grows brighter, strengthening your spirit. With these profound words, Hotaka bowed deeply to Hiroshi, a gesture of profound respect, not only from teacher to student, but also an acknowledgement between two fellow travelers on the same endless path of awakening. Hiroshi, deeply moved, returned the bow with equal reverence, feeling a profound gratitude for this encounter. It had changed him in ways he was only beginning to comprehend, a subtle yet fundamental shift in the very fabric of his being. The weight he had carried for so long, the questions that had troubled his spirit, had not simply been answered, but had been dissolved in the warmth and clarity of Hotaka's wisdom. As Hiroshi descended the winding mountain path that evening, the world seemed to shimmer with a new profound significance. The small treasures, the smooth stone, the dried cherry blossom, and the tiny carved lantern lay secure in the pocket of his robe, tangible reminders of the wisdom he had received. With each step away from the serene monastery, he found himself noticing each person he passed on the road with a newfound awareness, a heightened sense of presence. The merchant with his cart of colorful wares, his face etched with the day's labors. The young mother, her back straight and strong, carrying her child snugly in a sling. The old farmer, his clothes dusted with the soil of his fields, returning home with a slow, steady gait. Before his visit to Hotaka, these individuals would have been mere background figures, anonymous shapes populating his journey. Now, however, they no longer seemed like random encounters, disconnected entities in a vast, indifferent world. Instead, they appeared as meaningful threads in the vast, interconnected tapestry of existence, each playing an essential, if often unseen, role in the grand design of life. Hiroshi felt a quiet reverence for each one, a nascent understanding that their paths, however briefly, were interwoven with his own. His perception had fundamentally shifted from a chaotic, chance-driven universe to one filled with subtle purpose and profound order. In the years that followed, Hiroshi would often return to the secluded mountain monastery. These visits were not merely for revisiting a place of peace, but to deepen his understanding of the Buddha's timeless teachings. He would spend days, sometimes weeks, sitting in quiet contemplation, engaging in long, thoughtful dialogues with Master Hotaka, absorbing the subtle nuances of the Dharma. The old monk's insights, initially abstract concepts, began to manifest as lived experiences in Hiroshi's daily life, transforming his interactions and his inner world. He found that the answers he sought were not just in the teachings, but in the mindful application of those teachings to every moment of his existence. Eventually, Hiroshi himself became a respected teacher in his own right, not in the grand public manner of some renowned masters who sought fame and large followings, but in the quiet, profound way of a guide whose wisdom was sought out by those genuinely ready to listen. His counsel was like a cool, clear stream in a parched land, refreshing and vital. He became known especially for his deep understanding of human connection and the subtle yet profound purpose behind each encounter in our lives. His former restlessness, the uncertainty that had once shadowed his eyes, had been replaced by a calm clarity, a quiet confidence rooted in genuine insight, a peace that emanated from his very being. When asked by his own students about the most important teaching he had received from Master Hotaka, Hiroshi would smile a warm, knowing expression that mirrored his old teachers. He would often reach into his own robe, now worn smooth with age, and produce the very same three small gifts, now worn even smoother by decades of contemplation and countless journeys. They were more than objects, they were talismans of profound wisdom. People do not come into our lives by chance. Hiroshi would begin his voice carrying the same gentle certainty as Hotaka's, a voice that had learned to resonate with quiet authority. Each encounter is a seed planted in the garden of your spirit. Some grow into mighty, enduring trees that provide steadfast shelter and unwavering support to their roots, deeply intertwined with your own. Others bloom into beautiful, vibrant flowers, present for only a brief season, yet leaving an indelible mark of beauty and transformation. And still others become the unyielding, challenging stones that, though painful at first, ultimately form the very path you walk, shaping your character and guiding your steps towards greater resilience and clarity. He would pause, allowing his words to settle in the hearts of his students, just as Hotaka had done for him. But none, he would emphasize his gaze, sweeping across their earnest faces. None are without purpose, and all without exception contain the potential for awakening, for revealing deeper truths about yourselves, about others, and about the intricate, sacred dance of existence. Each thread is essential, each encounter, a lesson, each connection, a part of your unfolding destiny. And on his meditation cushion, often in the quiet moments before dawn, or as dusk settled over the land, Hiroshi would still hold the three small gifts from Hotaka: the smooth stone, the dried cherry blossom, the tiny wooden lantern, now worn almost to abstract forms by decades of contemplation and constant touch. As he held them, he would remember the day his own journey of understanding truly began with a question carried up a mountainside to a wise monk beneath a cherry tree. That encounter itself, a testament to the principle of purposeful connection, had set him on a path that continued to unfold, bringing ever deepening peace and clarity. As we end this story, I invite you to reflect gently on the connections in your own life. Who have been the sturdy trees providing unwavering shelter through your storms, offering stability and unwavering support, standing firm against the fiercest winds? Who have been the brilliant but brief blossoms that transformed your perception, sparking a new direction or revealing an unexpected beauty, even if their presence was fleeting, leaving only a lingering scent of change? And who have been the challenging stones that, though perhaps causing discomfort or pain, ultimately guided your steps, strengthening your resolve, and leading you toward profound growth, shaping you in ways gentler paths could not? The Buddha taught that every human being is the author of his own health or disease. This profound insight extends beyond our physical well being to the very fabric of our relationships. Similarly, we are not passive recipients of our connections. Rather, we actively co create the meaning in our relationships. We discover and draw forth the lessons each connection offers us, choosing our response, our understanding, and our path forward. The purpose is rarely given to us. It is revealed through our mindful engagement and our willingness to learn from every experience. As you drift towards sleep, consider that every person in your life, past, present, and even those yet to come, arrives with perfect timing, carrying precisely the lessons your spirit is ready to receive. There is no randomness in this sacred dance. May you rest peacefully, held in the vast, intricate web of connection that supports us all, guiding our journeys and nurturing our spirits, even in our deepest dreams. As the gentle light of dawn filters through the ancient cedar trees, casting long, peaceful shadows across the land, we find ourselves approaching a different sanctuary, a serene valley monastery known for its profound teachings on mindful action. Take a slow, deep breath, allowing the crisp morning air to fill your lungs. As you exhale, feel any lingering tension in your shoulders melt away, dissolving into the quiet atmosphere. Let your body settle even more deeply into relaxation, becoming one with the soft comfort of your bed. This next story explores a subtle paradox, one that many of us struggle with in our daily lives, often without even realizing it. It delves into the delicate art of compassion and the profound importance of knowing when to act, and perhaps even more critically, when to refrain from acting. Sometimes our well intentioned efforts to help others born from a pure desire to alleviate suffering can actually cause unexpected harm, hindering their growth or diminishing their dignity. The Buddha expressed this wisdom beautifully when he said, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." This teaching points to the universal benefit of a compassionate heart. But what does true compassion look like in practice? Is it always rushing in to fix others' problems, to offer solutions, or to remove obstacles? Or might there be a deeper, more profound wisdom in knowing when to step back to offer supportive presence rather than intervention, allowing others the space to discover their own strength and walk their own path? In this peaceful monastery, nestled serenely amidst gentle hills and surrounded by the soothing murmur of flowing streams, lived the respected monk Noro. His practical wisdom was renowned, drawing seekers not only from nearby villages, but also from distant provinces. His reputation was built not on grand pronouncements, but on clear, actionable guidance. Unlike many spiritual teachers who spoke in riddles or abstract metaphors, Noro offered guidance that anyone could apply directly to their everyday challenges. His insights, cutting through confusion with remarkable clarity. Villagers and fellow monks alike sought his counsel when faced with difficult decisions, personal dilemmas, or relationships that had become tangled and knotted like old fishing nets seemingly beyond repair. One crisp autumn morning, as vibrant red maple leaves danced on the breeze outside the meditation hall, their colors a fleeting beautiful spectacle against the pale sky, a group of Noro's dedicated students gathered for his weekly teaching. Among them sat a young monk named Takashi, whose troubled expression immediately caught Noro's discerning attention. Takashi's brow was furrowed, his shoulders slightly slumped, suggesting a burden of internal conflict that weighed heavily upon him. Today, Noro began, his voice gentle yet clear as a mountain stream, his gaze sweeping over the faces of his students. We will explore a teaching that many find difficult to accept, perhaps even counterintuitive. It is the wisdom of non interference, of knowing when helping others is truly helpful and when it may cause unexpected, often subtle harm. Several students exchanged confused glances, a ripple of quiet perplexity moving through the group. Surely helping others was always good, always meritorious. Wasn't that the very foundation of their spiritual practice, the essence of karuna, compassionate action? Their understanding of compassion had always been active, hands-on, problem-solving, never passive. Noro smiled at their puzzled expressions, anticipating their unspoken questions. Life is like a great river. He continued, his voice calm and steady, and each of us is a small boat navigating its ever-changing currents. How many of you have tried to steer someone else's boat without being asked? Believing you knew the best course for them, convinced your path was superior. Nearly every hand in the room slowly rose a wave of acknowledgement. Takashi's hand, however, rose hesitantly, almost reluctantly, as if burdened by a recent, uncomfortable memory. And how many? Noro pursued, his gaze now lingering gently on Takashi, found that their well-intended intervention, their attempt to help, created unexpected consequences, perhaps even resentment or a disruption of the natural flow instead of the harmony they sought. Again, most hands remained raised, a silent testament to the universality of this experience. Takashi's face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and dawning understanding as he slowly lowered his gaze to the polished wooden floor. He seemed to recognize the uncomfortable truth of his own recent actions in Noro's words, a mirror reflecting his own well-meaning but ultimately misguided efforts. Let me share a story that has been passed down through generations of our lineage, Noro said, settling more comfortably on his meditation cushion, adjusting his robes with a soft rustle. It concerns two childhood friends, Shun and Masu, who grew up together in a coastal village, much like the one many of you come from, where the salty tang of the sea is ever present and the rhythm of the tides shapes daily life. From their earliest days, these two were inseparable, their lives woven together like the threads of a sturdy fishing net. They fished together, celebrated festivals together, and shared both joys and sorrows with an effortless camaraderie that many envied. As they grew into young men, their bond was so remarkably strong that villagers often remarked it was like they shared one heart between two bodies. Their trust was absolute, their understanding intuitive, built on years of shared experience and unwavering loyalty. As adults, their paths diverged somewhat. Noro continued, his voice calm and steady. Shun, with his keen mind and shrewd foresight, became a successful merchant with profitable trade routes to distant islands. His warehouses were full, his ships sailed far and wide, and his prosperity grew with each passing year, accumulating considerable wealth. Masu, on the other hand, chose the life of a fisherman, following steadfastly in his father's footsteps, honoring the traditions of his ancestors, working tirelessly with the sea. Though their daily lives differed greatly, one immersed in commerce and the other battling the sea, their deep friendship, their core connection, remained as strong and unyielding as ever, a constant in their changing lives. One spring, a series of terrible, unprecedented storms ravaged the coastal village. Noro recounted his voice taking on a more somber tone, painting a vivid picture of the disaster. The sea, usually a benevolent provider, turned into a furious adversary. Many fishing boats were severely damaged, their hulls splintered, their sails shredded, and their nets torn beyond immediate repair. Masu, like countless other fishermen, found himself in serious financial difficulty. The repairs to his beloved boat, his very livelihood, would cost more than he could possibly afford, and without it he could not bring in the catch necessary to support his family, who depended entirely on his daily efforts. Despair began to creep into his heart. Masu, however, was a man of immense pride. Noro emphasized a quality that, while admirable in its own way, could also be a source of quiet struggle, making it difficult for him to accept aid. He was too proud to ask for help even from his closest friend Shun, despite their deep bond. The thought of appearing weak or indebted was unbearable. Instead, he began working extra jobs on land, toiling in the fields of the rice farmers, repairing roofs, mending fences, anything to earn the money for the repairs through his own efforts. He was determined to overcome this challenge independently through sheer grit and perseverance, even if it took many arduous months, even if it meant significant hardship for himself and his family. Shun, with his merchant's keen eye for observation and his heart filled with deep affection for his friend, noticed Masu's struggles. His friend's lean figure, his weary eyes, the lines of exhaustion on his face, and the quiet desperation in his demeanor were unmistakable signs of his plight. What good is my prosperity? Shun thought to himself, a genuine ache in his chest, if I cannot share it with those I care about most, with my dearest friend in his hour of need. It feels meaningless if it cannot ease his burden. But Shun also knew Masu's stubborn pride. He knew that direct assistance, a simple offer of money, would be refused outright, perhaps even causing offense and damaging their bond. So Shun, believing himself to be acting with ultimate compassion and wisdom, devised what he believed was a truly ingenious and compassionate plan, one that would bypass Masu's pride. Without saying anything to Masu, Noro explained his voice even, and measured Shun secretly arranged to pay the boat builder in advance for all necessary repairs. He then asked the craftsman to tell Masu a carefully constructed story that an anonymous village patron, a benevolent and mysterious figure, had created a special fund to help all fishermen affected by the devastating storm, and that his repairs would be fully covered through this communal fund. Shun believed this anonymity would preserve Masu's dignity, allowing him to accept the help without feeling indebted or diminished, without his pride being wounded. When Masu heard this news from the boat builder, His initial wave of immense relief, a sense of a heavy burden being miraculously lifted, quickly gave way to a gnawing suspicion. He was a man of his village, deeply connected to its rhythms and its people. He knew its whispers and its open pronouncements. No such patron or fund had been mentioned in any village council meetings, nor in the endless conversations at the docks or the market. And why would his boat, though damaged, be repaired before others who had suffered even greater, more catastrophic damage, those who were truly in dire straits? The pieces didn't quite fit. A discordant note sounded in his mind. After discreetly asking questions around the village, speaking to other fishermen and tradespeople, probing gently, Masu eventually inevitably discovered the truth that his childhood friend Shun had arranged everything behind his back. The intention, Masu knew, was kind, born of a loving heart. He could not fault Shun's desire to help, but the deception, however well meaning and carefully constructed, wounded Masu deeply. It was a subtle betrayal of trust, a quiet undermining of his autonomy and his fundamental sense of self reliance, of his ability to overcome his own challenges. Noro paused here, allowing the quiet drama of the story to settle. The morning sunlight, now brighter, streamed through the meditation hall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He reached for a small steaming teapot and began pouring fragrant green tea into small waiting ceramic cups for his students. The warm, earthy aroma filled the air, a gentle counterpoint to the subtle tension the story had created, a moment of stillness before the next revelation. When Masu finally confronted Shun about the secret arrangement, Noro continued, his voice calm. Their conversation, usually so easy and open, grew heated, strained with unspoken resentments. The words once flowing freely between them now felt sharp and laden with hurt. I would rather have worked for a year to fix my own boat piece by agonizing peace through my own sweat and effort than have you arrange this deception, Shun. Masu exclaimed, his voice rising with uncharacteristic anger, shaking with raw emotion. Do you think so little of me that you believed I couldn't solve my own problems? Do you not trust my strength, my capability, my ability to face adversity? Shun was stunned, genuinely bewildered by his friend's fierce reaction. His face registered a mixture of hurt and confusion, his intentions so pure, yet so misunderstood. Masu, I only wanted to help. He protested, his own voice, laced with genuine concern and a desperate plea for understanding. I have more than enough, and you were struggling, burdened by this hardship. How could I stand by and do nothing knowing I had the means? But it wasn't your struggle to solve, Shun. Masu retorted, his voice still trembling with emotion, refusing to back down. Some challenges, some hardships we must face ourselves. It is in the overcoming, in the enduring, that we discover our own true strength, our resilience, our capacity to navigate life. You robbed me of that discovery, that hard-won confidence. You took away my chance to prove myself, to grow stronger from the trial. Noro looked directly at Takashi, whose discomfort was now visibly etched on his face, evident to everyone in the room. The young monk shifted on his cushion, his earlier understanding now deepening into profound realization, as if the story was being played out within his own heart. The Buddha taught us, Noro said, his voice gentle but firm, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. we ourselves must walk the path. This profound wisdom reminds us that each person, regardless of their circumstances, must ultimately discover their own way forward, their own inner resources, their own resilience. When we step in, unasked however benevolent our intentions, we risk depriving them of that essential journey of self discovery, that vital opportunity to build their own strength. What happened to their friendship, Master? One of the younger students asked, their voice hushed, caught in the unfolding narrative, sensing the gravity of the situation. It was damaged for many years. Noro replied, a note of quiet sadness in his tone. Though they eventually reconciled, and their bond rooted in childhood slowly began to heal, something had fundamentally shifted between them. The delicate, balanced exchange that had characterized their friendship, the mutual respect for each other's autonomy, was disrupted. Masu felt subtly diminished by Shun's actions, even though they undoubtedly came from a place of genuine heartfelt care. The act of help had paradoxically created an imbalance of power and a wound to Masu's pride, a silent scar on their shared history. But surely it's better to have a repaired boat than to struggle indefinitely. Another student questioned, still grappling with the nuance of the teaching, trying to reconcile common sense with this complex spiritual truth. Isn't it ultimately better to alleviate suffering, even if it causes some discomfort or misunderstanding? Is it? Noro asked gently, his gaze piercing through the simplistic question. Consider what Masu lost in this exchange, beyond the mere monetary cost of boat repairs. He lost the invaluable opportunity to overcome a significant challenge through his own efforts. He lost the profound confidence and self reliance that would have come from solving his own problem, from facing adversity and finding a way through it independently. And perhaps most importantly, he lost a degree of trust in the one relationship he had always counted on to be honest, transparent, and respectful of his boundaries. The Buddha taught that suffering is often our greatest teacher. Noro elaborated his voice, gaining a quiet intensity. When we rush to remove another's suffering without being asked, without discerning their true need or their readiness, we may unintentionally deprive them of important, often transformative lessons they need to learn. We may prevent them from developing the very strength they need for future, perhaps even greater challenges. Their struggle, though difficult to witness, might be precisely what allows them to forge their own inner resilience, to find their own deep well of strength. Takashi, who had remained silent, deeply absorbed in the story, could contain himself no longer. His discomfort had transformed into a profound, almost painful recognition. Master Noro, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, I think I have made this very mistake recently. The story of Shun and Masu, it mirrors my own actions precisely. Noro nodded encouragingly, his compassionate gaze inviting Takashi to continue to fully articulate his insight, knowing that true understanding often comes through self-reflection. Tell us, Takashi. My younger sister, Takashi explained, his voice gaining a little strength as he articulated his realization, has been struggling greatly to pass her examinations to become a healer. The material is vast and complex, and she has been working tirelessly, often late into the night, pushing herself to master it. Without telling her, without even asking if she desired assistance, I spent many evenings rewriting her study materials in simpler language, believing I was helping her absorb the difficult concepts more easily. I thought I was being compassionate, a supportive older brother easing her burden. Last week, he continued his face, showing a clear memory of the painful moment she discovered what I had done. And instead of being grateful, as I had expected, she was deeply upset. She said, "Takashi, you made me feel incapable. You made me feel like you didn't believe I could succeed on my own. You undermined my own efforts, my own struggle." Now, Takashi concluded, his voice filled with humility and regret. I understand her reaction completely. I wasn't respecting her journey. I was imposing my solution without being asked, believing I knew what was best for her, instead of trusting her own process. Noro smiled warmly at the young monk's insightful and honest self reflection. This brings us to the very heart of today's teaching, Takashi. He said, his voice a comforting balm. The Buddha instructed his followers to practice karuna, compassionate action. But true compassion, deep and effective compassion, requires wisdom about when to act and, crucially, when to wait. It requires discernment, a keen eye for the true need, not just the surface problem. If someone is drowning and calls out for help, Noro illustrated his voice clear and concise. By all means, extend your hand without hesitation. That is clear, immediate compassion, a direct response to a cry for aid. But if someone is learning to swim and struggling with difficult currents, perhaps thrashing and swallowing water, but still striving to find their own stroke, watching with supportive presence while allowing them to find their own strength, may be the greater kindness. Your active help then would be interference, and their struggle, however difficult, is part of their learning, part of their becoming capable. A soft, rhythmic rain had begun to fall outside the meditation hall, its gentle drumming on the tiled roof, creating a soothing, almost hypnotic rhythm. The students sat in contemplative silence, absorbing the profound, counterintuitive teaching. The air, cool and fresh from the rain, seemed to carry the wisdom directly into their understanding, settling deep within their hearts. Each person must navigate their own karma. Noro continued after a while, his voice a soft murmur against the backdrop of the rain. When we interfere without being asked, particularly in a way that undermines their agency, we disrupt the natural flow of cause and effect that guides each life toward its own unique awakening. Even the Buddha, with all his boundless wisdom and infinite compassion, offered his teachings only to those who sought them out. He did not impose them upon unwilling minds. He waited for the readiness to be present. "But, Master," asked an older student from the back of the room, her brow still furrowed with a lingering doubt, "how do we truly know when to help and when to step back? The boundary seems so unclear, so subtle, like the mist on the mountains." "An excellent question." Noro acknowledged, his gaze thoughtful. The Buddha offered guidance when he said, "Before giving, the mind of the giver is happy, while giving, the mind of the giver is made peaceful. After giving, the mind of the giver is uplifted." This teaching points to both our intention and the results of our giving, offering a practical framework for discernment. It's not just about the act itself, but the spirit in which it's done and its ultimate impact on all involved. Before offering help, ask yourself honestly, am I doing this to genuinely support the other person's journey and their growth, or to make myself feel useful, important, or even to alleviate my own discomfort at seeing their struggle, Noro advised. Will my assistance truly honor their dignity and autonomy, or will it subtly diminish them, implying they are incapable? Have they indicated in some clear way that my help would be welcome and genuinely needed? And perhaps most importantly, is this actually mine to solve? Many times, what appears as helping is actually interfering with vital lessons that person needs to learn themselves. It is their karma, their path, their unique opportunity for growth, not ours to commandeer. Noro reached for a nearby walking stick made of gnarled, polished wood and drew a simple yet profoundly meaningful circle in the fine sand garden beside his cushion. Think of each life as having a boundary like this circle, he explained, tracing its smooth perimeter. Inside the circle are the experiences, the challenges, the struggles, and the unique growth that belong to that person alone. True compassion respects these boundaries. It understands that while we can offer love and support, we cannot and should not walk another's path for them, nor erase their essential lessons. Sometimes, he continued, the most compassionate action is simply to be present with someone in their difficulty, not trying to fix or change their experience, not offering unsolicited advice, not rushing to rescue, but offering the profound gifts of your attentive, non judgmental care while they find their own way through. This kind of presence, this quiet holding of space, is a powerful form of support, far more respectful than any rushed solution because it honors their inherent capacity. Another student, a young woman with bright, inquisitive eyes, raised her hand. Master, I understand the wisdom of not interfering, but doesn't this contradict our practice of generosity of Dana? Aren't we supposed to give freely to those in need without holding back as a fundamental spiritual virtue? Ah, Noro smiled, recognizing the genuine inquiry, a common tension between different teachings. Another excellent question. The Buddha spoke of dana, the practice of generous giving, as indeed essential to the spiritual path. But true generosity comes without strings or expectations. It does not diminish the receiver or elevate the giver. It is offered freely without a need for reciprocation or validation for the sheer joy of giving. Consider the difference between these two approaches, he said, offering a clear distinction. One person says, I notice you're struggling. How can I support you? What kind of help would be most useful to you right now? This approach empowers the other, while another says, with perhaps the same underlying good intention, I see your problem. Let me fix it for you. I know what you need. The first honors the other's wisdom and agency, inviting their participation. The second subtly suggests they are incapable that you know better than they do, inadvertently creating a dynamic of dependency and undermining their self-worth. The rain had stopped now, and soft, ethereal sunlight began to filter through the delicate paper windows of the meditation hall, creating shimmering patterns of light on the polished wooden floor. Noro rose slowly and walked to the doorway, inviting his students to follow him outside into the freshly washed air, where everything seemed vibrant and renewed. In the monastery garden, droplets of rain still clung to every leaf and flower petal, transforming the ordinary landscape into a world of tiny sparkling jewels, each reflecting the nascent light. Noro pointed to a delicate spider web stretched intricately between two branches, each strand now visible due to the myriad of clinging raindrops glistening like a net of diamonds. Nature offers us perfect examples of non interference. He said, his voice quiet, filled with reverence for the natural world. See how the spider builds its web, an offering of its skill and effort, but it doesn't control which insects fly into it. The web exists as an invitation, a possibility. The results come in their own time, according to the natural flow of life, without compulsion or manipulation. When we offer our help in this spirit, Noro concluded, his gaze encompassing his students, creating supportive conditions without attachment to specific outcomes, without needing to control the result. We practice the highest form of compassion. We honor each person's right to their own journey with all its necessary struggles and profound discoveries. We give them the dignity of their own learning process, trusting in their innate capacity to find their way. Takashi approached Noro as the other students began to disperse their minds, filled with new perspectives and quiet contemplation. Master, he said quietly, his voice still tinged with humility, I will visit my sister tomorrow and apologize for interfering with her studies. I see now that my actions, though born of genuine care, came from not fully trusting her own capability, her own inner resources, and her path. A wise recognition, Takashi Noro said, placing a gentle, affirming hand on the young monk's shoulder. And perhaps, instead of offering solutions, you might simply ask her, what kind of support would be most helpful to you right now in your own journey? The answer you may find will surprise you, and your relationship will be strengthened by the honesty and respect you now offer. As evening approached, casting long, ethereal shadows across the monastery grounds, Noro gathered with a smaller, more intimate group of his senior students beneath a gnarled pine tree. This ancient tree had weathered countless storms over centuries, its resilient form, a testament to enduring strength and deep roots. Its very presence a silent teacher. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke, settling a quiet stillness over the landscape, inviting introspection. There is a final teaching I wish to share about non-interference. Noro said, his voice soft but resonant as they settled around him on the rough ground. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. This applies not only to our possessions and desires, but also crucially to our ideas about how others should live or how situations should unfold. When we become attached to our vision of how to solve another's problem, when we insist that our way is the only way, we inevitably create suffering for both them and for ourselves. We must learn to offer our wisdom lightly, like an open palm holding water available to drink, but never forced upon anyone. An old farmer, a man with a face weathered by sun and toil, who occasionally visited the monastery for teachings, spoke up from the circle. Master Noro, he began, his voice rough but sincere. I have been thinking deeply about my son as you speak. For years I have tried with all my might to make him follow in my footsteps and take over our family farm. It is our heritage, our tradition, but his heart lies elsewhere. He dreams of becoming a carpenter, of shaping wood with his own hands, creating new forms. I see now that I have been trying to steer his boat without being asked, trying to force him onto a path that is not his own. Noro nodded thoughtfully, a knowing look in his eyes. The Buddha taught, let go of the past, let go of the future, let go of the present, and cross over to the farther shore of existence. Sometimes, the greatest act of love we can offer another is precisely that releasing our grip on how we believe they should live, on the predetermined path we have imagined for them. True love grants freedom. It does not seek to control. It trusts in the unfolding of another's true nature. But the farmer continued, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. If I don't guide him, how will he know the right path? How will he navigate the challenges of life? If I do not show him the way, if I do not teach him from my own experience, perhaps the right path for him, my friend, is not the same as it was for you, Noro suggested gently. The world changes, and so do the hearts of men. Buddha reminded us that each morning we are born again. What we do today matters most. Your son must discover his own way of contributing to the world, his own form of right livelihood, his own unique happiness. Your role is not to impose your map, but to be a supportive presence as he draws his own, trusting in his innate compass. The farmer fell silent, contemplating this new, liberating perspective. Around the circle, others began sharing their own experiences, times when well-meaning help had inadvertently caused harm, or conversely, when stepping back, however difficult, had allowed someone to find unexpected strength and grow in ways they never could have otherwise. There was a palpable sense of shared understanding, a collective loosening of the grip on cherished but ultimately limiting ideas of help. As the stars began to emerge one by one in the vast canvas of the evening sky, a young woman who lived in the village below the monastery spoke. Master, I've been thinking about my elderly mother. She has become quite forgetful and sometimes struggles with daily tasks. I have been taking over more and more of her responsibilities, thinking I was being kind, thinking I was helping her. But recently I've noticed she seems sadder, less engaged with life, almost as if a light within her is dimming. Perhaps, Noro suggested, his voice filled with empathy. There are ways to support her that actively preserve her dignity and her sense of purpose. Instead of doing things for her, could you find ways to do things with her, or perhaps modify tasks so she can still participate in meaningful ways, even if it takes more time or looks different than before? True support empowers. It does not disable. It seeks to uplift, not to undermine. The woman's eyes widened with recognition. Yes, I see now, she whispered. I've been helping in a way that makes her feel useless, like a burden, when I could be helping in a way that honors what she can still contribute, what she is still capable of doing and enjoying. The Buddha taught that health is the greatest gift, contentment is the greatest wealth. Noro reminded them. True health encompasses not only physical well-being, but also the inner wealth of contentment that comes from feeling capable, valued, and actively engaged with life. When we inadvertently strip others of their agency, even with the best intentions, we rob them of this inner wealth, this profound source of inner peace. As the gathering concluded, Noro shared one final poignant story that had been passed down through generations of Buddhist teachers, a powerful parable that encapsulated the essence of their discussion. Long ago, a man noticed a butterfly struggling to emerge from its chrysalis. The butterfly was working very hard, pushing and wriggling, and the man, witnessing its intense struggle, felt a deep surge of compassion for its apparent suffering. Wanting to help, He gently used a small knife to widen the opening of the chrysalis, making it easier for the butterfly to emerge. The butterfly came out quickly. Noro continued, his voice soft but deliberate, with a swollen body and small shriveled wings. The man expected that at any moment the wings would expand and unfurl, growing strong enough to support the butterfly's body in flight. But that never happened. What the man, in his well meaning ignorance, didn't understand was that the butterfly needed the very struggle of pushing through the tight chrysalis. That arduous effort was precisely what forced fluid from its body into its wings, strengthening them, preparing them for flight. Without that struggle, the butterfly could never fly. His well intentioned help left the butterfly grounded for life, unable to fulfill its true nature. This Noro concluded, his gaze encompassing every student in the darkening garden, is perhaps the clearest illustration of our teaching today. Sometimes the very struggle we wish to remove for another person is precisely what they need to develop their own strength, their own resilience, their own capacity to truly fly. Our compassionate restraint, our willingness to allow others to face their necessary challenges, can be the greatest gift we offer, for it fosters true empowerment. As darkness fell completely over the monastery, the gathering dispersed, their minds rich with much to contemplate. The simple teaching of non interference had revealed itself to be profoundly relevant to countless situations in their daily lives, challenging their ingrained assumptions about what it truly means to be helpful and replacing them with a deeper, more nuanced understanding. Takashi remained behind, helping Noro extinguish the flickering lanterns around the meditation hall, their soft glows fading into the night. "Master," he said quietly, his voice still full of reflection, "I've been thinking about my sister again. If I hadn't interfered with her studies, she might have developed her own unique methods for understanding the difficult material. Methods that would have served her far better than mine, because they would have been her discoveries, uniquely suited to her." "Yes," Noro agreed, a gentle smile in his voice. "And there's something else to consider, Takashi. By struggling with the material herself, by persevering through that difficulty, she would gain not just knowledge, but an unshakable confidence in her own ability to overcome challenges. That confidence, that inner fortitude, might serve her even more profoundly than the information itself when she faces difficult cases as a healer in the future. It is a strength she would have built for herself from within a foundation that no one could take away." "I see that now." Takashi nodded, a deep sense of understanding washing over him. "The Buddha's words about being our own refuge make so much more sense to me. We must each discover our own inner strength, our own capacity, and rely on that above all else." "Exactly so," Noro smiled. "The Buddha taught, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise or blame. When we solve our own problems, when we face our struggles and find our own way through, we develop that unshakable inner foundation, that inner resilience that allows us to stand firm amidst the winds of life, unperturbed by external forces. That is the true gift of earned strength. As you drift deeper towards sleep, consider this ancient wisdom in your own life. Are there situations where your desire to help might actually be depriving someone of an important growth experience? Perhaps you've been offering solutions where quiet presence was what was truly needed. Could stepping back while remaining supportively present be the greater gift in some relationships? The Buddha's profound teaching that all beings are the owners of their karma reminds us that each person must be allowed to navigate their own unique journey with all its necessary lessons, discoveries, and sometimes its difficult struggles. True compassion honors this fundamental reality rather than trying to circumvent it. May you rest peacefully tonight, holding this delicate wisdom of knowing when to act and when to simply be present. May your relationships be characterized by deep respect for each person's unique path, and may you find the perfect balance between offering support and honoring others' inherent need to grow through their own efforts